For this video, we'll solve 4x squared equals 2x plus 7. This is a quadratic equation. Your highest variable exponent is 2. So with quadratic equations, the first thing you want to do is determine if you can or cannot use the square root method. You can only use the square root method if you have one variable squared in your problem. This one has 2, so we cannot use the square root method. So moving along, we're going to either factor or use quadratic formula. For both of those, we need to move all terms to one side. Move terms so that your x squared term stays positive. So we're going to move the 2x and the 7 over to the left-hand side. Okay, make sure when you rewrite, put it in descending order. So 4x squared minus 2x minus 7 equals 0. I'm going to go ahead and label my a, which is in front of the x squared. My b is my middle constant. My c is my last constant. Okay, so now I'm going to see if this is factorable. So using whatever method you use to factor, let's go ahead and begin. So my method, I take a times c, which is negative 28. So I need to find two factors of negative 28 whose sum is our middle term, negative 2. So I'm going to start by listing all factors of negative 28. So negative 1 times 28 is a factor, also 1 times negative 28. Negative 2 times 14, also 2 times negative 14. Negative 4 times 7, and 4 times negative 7. Now from those factors, I need to find the set who, if I add or subtract, will give me a negative 2, and unfortunately none of those will do that. So if that is the case, this quadratic equation is not factorable, it's prime. Therefore we cannot factor to solve, we absolutely have to use the quadratic formula to solve this one. So our quadratic formula is x equal negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. All of that is divided by 2a. Alright, so let's use our a, b, and c and start plugging in values. So from up here, so negative b is a negative 2, so watch your signs, plus or minus. Now under the radical, all of b is squared, so all of negative 2 needs to be squared. Go ahead and put that in parentheses. Minus 4, a is 4, c is a negative 7. All of this is going to be divided by 2 times a. Okay, just work this piece by piece. Start with negative 2 is a positive 2. Be careful under your radical. Just start with negative 2 squared, which is a positive 4. And then in your calculator, just put negative 4 times negative 7. And that's going to be a positive 112. All of this is going to be divided by 2 times 4, which is 8. And then go ahead and finish up by taking 4 plus 112 is 116 over 8. Now technically this is your answer, but it is not reduced. And there's going to be two ways you have to write your answer. You're either going to have to write an approximate answer, which is just using your calculator and putting a decimal, or exact. And with exact, you have to make sure everything is reduced. So we're going to go through both of them so that you have that information. So let's start with the approximate. Again, approximate just means you're going to use your calculator and get a decimal value. We're going to be rounding. So let's go ahead and start. I would start with your radical. Just take the square root of 116. It's going to be a decimal, and whenever you're rounding within your problem, I suggest taking your decimal out to at least 4 spots, all divided by 8. Okay, now we're going to split this up into two answers. The first one is going to be 2 minus 10.7703 divided by 8. The second one is going to be 2 plus 10.7703 divided by 8. Calculator input's going to be important here. Whenever you throw this in your calculator, take 2 minus 10.7703. Make sure you hit enter before you divide by 8, or it's not going to give you the right answer. So the numerator is negative 8.7703. We're going to now divide that by 8. Let's round to the nearest tenth. So negative 1.09 is negative 1.1. So there's one of your answers, approximate answers. Let's take the next one. Take 2 plus 10.7703. Make sure you hit enter before you divide by 8. Okay, then we'll divide that by 8. Round to the nearest tenth. That's going to be a positive 1.59, which is 1.6. So those are your approximate answers. The other way you're going to have to write an answer is give the exact. So let's go back here and look at that. All right, let me get my problem again. So 2 plus minus square root of 116 over 8. Okay, so when finding an exact, you've got to reduce. The first thing you're going to reduce is your radical term. Then the second thing you're going to reduce is the whole problem. Make sure you do it in this order so you don't make a mistake. So let's start with our radical, 116. So however you reduce radicals, go ahead and do so. So 116 and 2 is 58. 2 and 29. So when you reduce 116, you're going to end up with 2 square root of 29. So that's always your first step, is to reduce the radical. So we're going to rewrite that square root of 116 as 2 square root of 29, all divided by 8. Then you're going to reduce the whole problem. And I recommend at this point just split up your numerator and reduce each term individually. So take 2 over 8 plus or minus 2 square root of 29 over 8. Okay, and let's reduce each term. 2 over 8 is 1/4, plus or minus. Now when you reduce your radical term, it has to be the number out in front with the number in the bottom. Don't touch your number on the inside of your radical. Okay, so 2 over 8 is 1/4. Leave your radical as is. And then after you reduce your whole problem, you are done. And there is your exact answer. Now you can combine this since we have the same denominator and shorthand it. That is also a correct answer. Either way is fine.